When we think about building muscle, we often jump straight to things like lifting heavier, eating more protein, or getting better sleep. And while those things absolutely matter, there's one simple, almost boring habit that most people overlook, and it's costing them muscle gains every single morning: hydration. After sleeping for 6 to 8 hours, your body wakes up in a state of dehydration. You haven't had a sip of water all night. That may not sound like a big deal, but your muscle cells and the entire system that supports recovery, repair, and growth are already running behind before your day has even started. Why? Because water isn't just something that keeps you alive, it's the foundation for nearly every biochemical reaction in the body, especially those involved in muscle building. Muscle tissue is composed of approximately 70–75% water. That's not a side detail, that's central. Water allows for nutrients to be transported into muscle cells, toxins to be flushed out, and enzymes to function properly. Without adequate hydration, protein synthesis, the process of building new muscle fibers, slows down dramatically. Your body simply can't perform at its best when it's lacking this essential resource. What's even more concerning is that most people don't feel thirsty first thing in the morning, so they assume they're fine. Maybe they grab a coffee on an empty stomach, skip breakfast entirely, or jump right into their day without thinking twice. But what's actually happening inside the body is a silent stress response. Cortisol, your body's natural stress hormone, is highest in the early morning. That spike is actually useful, it helps you wake up. But when paired with dehydration, it can become catabolic, breaking down muscle tissue instead of helping you build it. You might notice that your strength is lower during morning workouts, or that you feel stiff and mentally foggy. That's not just because you're tired. It's because your cells are starved for hydration. Think of it like trying to drive a car on an empty tank. Your performance suffers, your recovery suffers, and over time, your muscle mass takes a hit. Now let's get even more specific. One of the key drivers of muscle repair is something called mTOR, the mechanistic target of rapamycin. It's a cellular pathway that helps signal your body to grow and repair muscle. But here's the problem. mTOR is highly sensitive to stress, and it requires a hydrated environment to function optimally. If you're dehydrated, mTOR signaling is blunted. That means even if you ate a perfect meal and crushed your workout the day before, your body is operating in a low-gear state for recovery because you forgot to drink water. Even worse, chronic dehydration over time can reduce the elasticity and pliability of muscle fibers, making you more prone to injury. When your muscles are dry, they become stiff. That reduces their ability to contract effectively and respond to load, which not only impacts performance, but also makes the growth stimulus less effective. So what do you do about it? Start your day with water. Not just a sip. A full 16 to 24 ounces of water, ideally with electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium to help facilitate absorption and cellular hydration. Drinking plain water alone sometimes isn't enough, especially if you've sweated overnight or are training fasted. Adding electrolytes helps water actually get into your cells where it needs to go. This simple habit done before coffee, before food, before emails sets the stage for every other muscle. Supportive habit you stack on top. Your protein intake works better, your workouts feel smoother, your focus and energy go up, and most importantly, your muscle cells get the hydration they need to actually grow. It's not complicated, but it is foundational. If you're not hydrating first thing in the morning, you're leaving muscle on the table. Let's talk about something almost everyone is guilty of, especially when it's cold, or the bed just feels extra comfortable. I'm talking about hitting the snooze button. Now it might seem harmless. Maybe it's just 5 more minutes, maybe 10. You tell yourself you're getting a little more rest or easing into the day. But here's the truth. That habit is doing far more damage than you realize, particularly to your ability to build and maintain muscle. What happens the moment you hit snooze is actually a disruption of your circadian rhythm. That internal clock, which governs everything from energy levels to hormone cycles, is designed to get your body moving in sync with natural light. The first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up is when your brain and body are trying to realign themselves. Your cortisol levels, your alertness hormone, naturally peak in the morning to give you that surge of focus and energy to start the day. But when you hit snooze and drift in and out of fragmented sleep, you blunt that cortisol rhythm. And here's where it becomes a real problem for muscle growth. Cortisol and testosterone are linked. Testosterone, especially in men, but also critically in women, is a key anabolic hormone. It supports muscle protein synthesis, boosts motivation to train, improves mood, and even enhances sleep quality the following night. And guess what? Morning testosterone levels are highest right after you wake up, assuming you wake up consistently without interruption. When you hit snooze, you send a confusing signal to your hormonal system. You're telling your body it's not time to be awake yet, even though the light has changed and your brain is ready to reset. That inconsistency lowers your natural testosterone peak and increases grogginess. There's also a brain-level consequence to this habit. By snoozing, you're teaching your nervous system to be reactive instead of intentional. Instead of getting up with purpose, moving your body, hydrating, and setting your physiological tone for the day, you're reinforcing delay, fatigue, and inaction. It might seem psychological, but that mental loop influences behavior all day long. And over time, that lack of consistent action translates into skipped workouts, lower training intensity, and fewer opportunities for your muscles to receive stimulus and recovery signals. Now let's zoom into what's happening inside your muscles. When you wake up and move with intention, ideally within the same 30 to 60-minute window every day, you're reinforcing a stable pattern of growth and repair. You're supporting your nervous system's ability to fire efficiently, your muscles' ability to receive oxygen, rich blood flow, and your metabolism's ability to activate fat burning and fuel mobilization. But when you keep interrupting that window with snoozing, your neuromuscular efficiency gets dampened. Your motor units, the parts of your nervous system that signal muscles to contract, start to function more sluggishly. This isn't just about energy, it's about priming your body to use fuel effectively. If you roll out of bed after hitting snooze 3 times, still half-ass sleep, and then try to perform a high-quality workout or expect high-quality recovery from yesterday's session, your body's not going to give you its best. And over weeks or months, the cumulative effect is lost progress. It's slower hypertrophy, lower drive, and a frustrating plateau. So here's the better alternative. Get up when your alarm goes off, even if you feel tired. Even if it's not perfect, the goal is not to be robotic, but to build consistency. That consistency reinforces your hormonal environment, strengthens your brain's readiness to move, and sharpens your physical output. And all of that feeds directly into muscle preservation and muscle gain. It's not about willpower, it's about rhythm, and when you get that rhythm right, your entire physiology supports your growth goals. The snooze button feels harmless, but it quietly steals your progress. One morning at a time, what you eat in the morning sets the metabolic tone for your entire day. A lot of people don't realize this, but the typical high-sugar breakfast, the kind made up of pastries, sweetened cereals, processed fruit juices, or that large caramel latte with whipped cream, does more harm to your body than just adding a few extra calories. It's actually interfering with the hormonal processes that are critical for muscle growth and fat metabolism. When you start your day with a high sugar meal, your blood glucose spikes rapidly. In response, your pancreas pumps out insulin to shuttle that sugar into your cells. Now, insulin itself isn't the villain here. It plays an important role in nutrient transport and energy storage, but when it spikes too fast and too frequently, especially first thing in the morning, it suppresses other hormones that are essential for recovery and growth. One of those is growth hormone. Growth hormone is highest during deep sleep and remains elevated into the early morning. It's crucial for tissue repair, fat burning, and maintaining lean muscle mass. But when insulin rises sharply, it shuts off the release of growth hormone prematurely, so that sweet, high-carb breakfast that feels comforting is actually flipping the offs, which on your body's natural repair system. And if you repeat this every morning, you're constantly working against your body's ability to build and preserve muscle. There's also a neurological layer to this. High-sugar breakfasts cause rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar, which lead to mood swings, brain fog, and cravings. That crash around mid-morning makes you feel fatigued, unmotivated, and less likely to move or train effectively, and it creates a cycle. You chase more sugar or caffeine to feel normal again, and that keeps insulin high and recovery low. So what's a better approach? Start your morning with a meal that's high in protein, moderate in healthy fats, and low in processed sugars. Think of things like eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, chia pudding, or a protein shake with minimal fruit and no added sweeteners. These types of meals help stabilize your blood sugar, keep insulin in check, and allow growth hormone to stay active longer into the morning. This also supports better dopamine balance, which is critical for motivation and drive. When your blood sugar is stable, your brain doesn't have to constantly fight for equilibrium. You feel clearer, more focused, and more ready to engage with the physical demands of your day. And when it's time to train, your body is in a better hormonal and metabolic state to actually use that session for muscle development. All of this to say, breakfast isn't just about eating something. It's about eating in a way that supports your physiology. If your goal is muscle gain, longevity, or just feeling strong and focused throughout the day, then what you choose to put on your plate each morning matters more than you think. That sugar rush you reach for may be convenient, but in the long run, it's stealing your strength. Most people don't even notice they're doing it. You wake up, maybe you check your phone while still in bed, then move to the couch or sit at the kitchen table with your coffee. Within 10 minutes of waking up, you're already sitting, and while it feels normal, even harmless, that automatic transition into a seated position is doing real damage to your muscular system, especially if it's how you start every single day. When you sit right after waking, especially for long periods, you're immediately deactivating key muscle groups, most notably the glutes and posterior chain. These muscles are meant to stabilize your spine, support your hips, and power every major movement you do throughout the day. But sitting shortens your hip flexors, reduces blood flow to your lower body, and starts to rewire your neuromuscular system toward inactivity. Over time, that translates into stiffness, poor posture, lower back pain, and decreased force output in your lift. Even more critically, first thing in the morning is when your spine is most vulnerable. After lying horizontally all night, the discs in your spine are slightly more hydrated and swollen. That means when you go from bed to chair too quickly without activating supporting musculature, you're placing excess pressure on the lumbar spine. It's subtle, but repeated daily over months or years, it can result in chronic dysfunction that directly interferes with your training capacity. This early morning posture also impacts your breathing mechanics. Sitting in a slouched position restricts your diaphragm and lowers your ability to take full oxygen, rich breaths. Less oxygen means less cellular energy, and when muscles don't get enough oxygen, their function and recovery suffer. That shallow breathing also triggers your sympathetic nervous system, your fight response, making you more reactive, more stressed, and less focused throughout the day. Not exactly the state you want to be in if you're trying to optimize muscle repair or performance. What you want to do instead is simple, but it requires intention. When you get out of bed, don't immediately default to sitting. Stand, stretch, walk around, or even do 3-5 minutes of light mobility. This activates your core, engages your glutes, opens up your hips, and reminds your body that movement, not stillness, is your default state. You're training your nervous system to stay alert and responsive, and you're setting your muscular system up for better performance throughout the rest of the day. It's easy to overlook these tiny habits because they don't seem to cause damage in the short term. But what happens across weeks, months, and years is this quiet, steady erosion of strength, stability, and posture, and that erosion costs you. You may be doing everything else right, training hard, eating well, supplementing, but if you're starting your day in a seated, inactive state, you're moving backward without realizing it. How you start your morning is how you train your body to move, and if you begin with stillness, you teach your muscles to stay quiet. One of the most overlooked tools for preserving and building muscle is something incredibly simple: movement. Not a full-blown workout, not an intense cardio session, just gentle, consistent movement in the first moments of your day. The reason this matters so much is because your neuromuscular system doesn't fully wake up just by opening your eyes. It wakes up through activation, through motion. When you skip movement in the morning, your muscles remain in a passive state. Blood flow stays low, joint fluid stays stagnant, and your nervous system doesn't properly sync with your muscular system. This leads to sluggishness not just in how you feel, but in how your muscles actually perform throughout the day. You're essentially operating with a muted signal between your brain and body. And when that communication is delayed or dampened, your reaction time, power output, and coordination all take a hit. Whether you're working out or just going through your routine, even just 5 to 10 minutes of light mobility, walking, dynamic stretches, or bodyweight movements can create a cascade of beneficial effects. It increases circulation, delivering oxygen and nutrients to your muscle fibers. It lubricates your joints and activates your core stabilizers. Most importantly, it tells your nervous system, "We're active, we're awake, let's go." That early signal sharpens your physical responsiveness, enhances your ability to generate force later in the day, and reduces the risk of injury during training. Skipping this movement doesn't just affect performance, it affects adaptation. Muscles adapt based on consistent stimulus. If your body is used to starting every day in a low activation state, it adapts by conserving energy, by staying tighter, stiffer, and more resistant to change. But if you make movement a default behavior right out of bed, your muscles begin to expect it. They start to fire more efficiently, and when it's time to push during your actual workout, they're already primed to respond. This doesn't need to be complicated. It can be as simple as walking around your home, doing a few deep squats, or cycling through some hip openers and arm circles. What matters is that you're moving with intention, reconnecting your mind to your body, and preparing your system to operate at its best. If you ignore that morning opportunity to move, you're not just starting slow. You're teaching your muscles to stay asleep. After a full night of fasting, your body is in a catabolic state. That means it's breaking down tissue for energy, especially muscle tissue, if no nutrients are coming in. This is one of the most overlooked moments in muscle preservation and growth. People wake up, get moving, maybe even head to the gym, but they delay their first protein intake for hours. What they don't realize is that this delay is working directly against their goals. The first 30 to 60 minutes after waking is a prime window to shift your body out of a breakdown mode and into a repair mode. And the trigger for that shift, amino acids specifically, the essential amino acids found in high-quality protein. When you eat protein early in the day, you're signaling your body to stop the breakdown of muscle tissue and start building it back up. You're literally switching your metabolism from catabolic to anabolic. Now, this doesn't mean you need a massive breakfast right away. Even something as simple as a protein shake, a couple of eggs, or Greek yogurt can be enough to flip that switch. What matters is that your body gets access to the raw materials it needs to rebuild. If that window is missed, you extend the breakdown state unnecessarily, and that leads to a slow, subtle erosion of muscle over time. It's especially important for anyone over 40 because the body becomes less efficient at processing protein as we age. That means you need to be even more intentional with when and how you take in protein. If you wait until lunch to get your first meaningful dose, you're playing catch-up for the rest of the day, and chances are you won't fully recover from your previous workouts. Even for younger athletes, delaying protein lowers the net balance of muscle protein synthesis, which is what ultimately determines whether you're gaining or losing muscle. There's also a mental performance benefit here. Early protein helps stabilize blood sugar, improve focus, and support dopamine production, all of which contribute to stronger workouts and better decision-making throughout the day. So it's not just about muscle, it's about setting the foundation for how you show up physically and mentally. The bottom line is simple. If you want to preserve muscle, build new tissue, and recover better, don't wait. Feed your muscles early, feed them consistently, and you'll unlock a completely different level of progress. So if you've been training hard, eating clean, and still not seeing the muscle gains you expect, it might not be about what you're doing in the gym. It could be what you're doing the moment you wake up. These morning habits seem small, they seem harmless, but over time, they silently chip away at your progress, your strength, and your potential. Hydrating first thing, waking up without hitting snooze, avoiding sugar-loaded breakfasts, staying off the couch or chair right after getting out of bed, moving with purpose, and fueling your muscles early with protein. These are foundational actions. They don't take hours, they don't require fancy equipment, and they don't ask for perfection. But when practiced consistently, they shift your body from a state of breakdown to a state of growth. Your morning sets the tone for your entire day. And if you win your morning, your muscles will thank you for a lifetime.